Welcome to today's deep dive. So, if you live in a developed city, like London, for example, bringing home 40,000 pounds a year feels like you are doing exactly what you were told to do.
Right. I mean, you got the degree, you landed the job, you're putting in the hours.
Exactly. But if you actually sit down and do the brutal math on basic survival right now, that supposed safe traditional paycheck mathematically guarantees you will eventually go broke.
Yeah, the numbers are just incredibly sobering when you pull them apart. Today, we're exploring a really radically empowering perspective on adaptability from Osman.
Yeah, he's an entrepreneur, an energy healer, and a yoga teacher, right?
He is, yeah. And his research uses London as the baseline for this whole structural failure we're talking about.
Right.
So a 40,000-pound salary leaves you with roughly 2,600 a month in net income.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because currently, a single person needs a minimum of 2,000 a month just to cover a rented room, basic food, and transport.
Right, just to get to that job. That leaves virtually nothing for emergencies, let alone, entertainment or savings.
You are basically just financing your own existence so you can keep working.
Exactly. And that is just for a single person living in one room. If you introduce a family into that equation, it's wild.
Oh, yeah, or a partner who stays home with kids. The math just completely
It
shatters.
does. Osmond estimates that to actually support a standard three-bedroom home and a family, you need somewhere between 4,500 to 10,000 a month.
Wow. Which brings up this deeply ironic tension, I think, because right now, everyone is just terrified about artificial intelligence taking our traditional jobs.
Oh, totally. Is it like a global panic? We are terrified of losing a system that, if you look at the math, is fundamentally insolvent for the average person.
Yeah. And Osman's philosophy completely flips this anxiety. He argues that this AI disruption isn't some dystopian threat.
No, he says it's actually the eviction notice we desperately needed. Like, it's a blessing in disguise to force us out of a really toxic job market.
Okay, but wait, if I'm listening to this, I'm probably thinking, quitting a steady 9 to 5 when inflation is skyrocketing sounds completely reckless, right?
I mean, on the surface, sure.
Like, walking away from a guaranteed paycheck, even a small one, feels like career suicide. How does his math account for paying rent tomorrow if you just abandon the safety net?
Well, he challenges the whole assumption that the 9 to 5 actually is a safety net. Osman looks at the traditional market and calls it a toxic situation
Why toxic? Exactly.
because he notes that roughly 60% of people today feel they literally cannot afford basic life milestones. Like they can't afford to get married or start a family.
Wow. 60%.
Yeah. When you trade 40 hours of your week to a single employer for a flat fee, they place a hard cap on your earning potential. But global inflation places zero cap on your living expenses.
So basically, the risk isn't leaving the system. The real risk is staying loyal to a system where the math guarantees failure over time.
Exactly. The slow erosion of your buying power is mathematically certain in that model. So Osmond's alternative is this hard pivot away from being an employee.
Right, toward what he calls a skills-based contracting model.
Yeah. The strategy is to stop selling your presence and start selling a specific outcome.
Let's clarify the mechanics of that because contracting can mean a lot of things to different people. In the traditional job, an employer pays for my general output, right?
Right. You answer emails, you attend meetings, whatever's on your desk.
Yeah, but Osman is saying you have to unbundle those actions.
Yes, exactly. He is absolutely adamant that everyone possesses a specific skill they are good at. Even if you feel totally undervalued right now,
Right.
the goal is to find that highly valuable core skill, extract it from the 40-hour generalist bundle, and offer it as a specialized contractor.
So let's say my strength is, I don't know, streamlining supply chain logistics. As an employee, I do that alongside 50 other boring admin tasks for a capped salary.
Right. But as a contractor, you find 5 different businesses struggling with their logistics, you solve their specific problem, and you charge them for the value of that solution.
I love that. I'm no longer bound by an hourly wage cap. I'm bound by the value I can deliver.
Yes, you take back complete control of your earning capacity. You decide your clients, what the solution is worth, and your own schedule.
Okay, I mean, that sounds incredibly empowering in theory, but in practice, it sounds totally overwhelming.
How so?
Well, if I transition to being a solo contractor tomorrow, suddenly I have to be my own marketing department, my own legal counsel, and my own data analysis team.
Yeah, that's the classic barrier.
Historically, a solo operator just can't outcompete a massive corporation because they don't have the resources.
And 5 years ago, you would be absolutely right.
Mm.
But the arrival of AI fundamentally altered the physics of what a single person can do. This is the bridge for Osman's transition.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. Let's reframe how we look at that technology. Framing AI as the enemy arriving to replace you is just the default human reaction.
It is, yeah.
But I like to look at it through the lens of a cognitive exoskeleton.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, think about the physical exoskeletons they use in heavy manufacturing. You strap a mechanical frame to your body, and suddenly your normal human arms can lift a 500-pound engine block.
Right. The suit doesn't replace your muscles.
Exactly. It gives your muscles superhuman leverage. And in this skills-based contracting model, AI does the exact same thing for your brain.
It doesn't replace your critical thinking. It just gives your intellect superhuman leverage to research and execute. And what's fascinating here is Osman's personal case studies on this.
Yeah, his anecdotes are wild. Because he doesn't treat AI as a novelty, he uses it for high-stakes operational problems.
Right, let's look at his market research. He wanted to identify a specific demographic, the top 1% of income earners in a certain region.
And the old way of doing that would require immense capital. Right, you'd spend 90 days in one city, testing the market, failing, packing up, moving to another city.
Yeah, you're looking at 9 months of wasted time and drained savings, just trying to find your audience.
But he bypassed that entirely.
He did. He didn't just ask a chatbot a generic question. He used his cognitive exoskeleton to synthesize massive data sets.
He fed it specific economic parameters, right?
Exactly. He asked it to cross-reference tax brackets, property values, and consumer spending across 3 distinct cities simultaneously.
He basically forced the AI to build a predictive demographic model for him.
And it instantly analyzed the spread and told him precisely which city had the highest concentration of his target audience right out of the gate.
That is insane. He condensed 9 months of expensive trial and error into, what, 12 seconds of computation?
Pretty much.
The sheer speed is just staggering. You are making enterprise-level decisions before your morning coffee gets cold. But what I found even more compelling was his legal story.
Oh, the court case. Yes, because the law is notoriously geek-kept by expensive professionals, right?
Yeah, billable hours will ruin you. He was facing a court case, which usually means handing a small fortune to a law firm just for background research.
But he chose to leverage his AI instead. He synthesized an incredible amount of case law by feeding his core argument into the system.
And he instructed the AI to act as opposing counsel.
Yes. He used it to beta test his own lawsuit. He literally had the machine hunt for loopholes in his logic.
That is so smart.
And once it found the weaknesses, he told it to pull recently published legal journals and historical precedents to patch those specific holes.
So it spit out a highly technical legal document supporting his position.
Yeah. He walked into court armed with the equivalent of a senior partner's research division, won his argument, and saved a fortune.
So whether you are analyzing macroeconomic trends or defending yourself in front of a judge, you have this hyper-competent co-pilot.
And he uses it for really hyper-niche stuff, too.
Right.
Like, he used it to find a wholesale supplier of raw, unsalted peanuts in bulk.
Which are surprisingly hard to find.
Right. And he tracked down the absolute cheapest wholesale price on flax seeds in the entire country delivered right to him.
Which, I mean, sounds trivial compared to winning a lawsuit, but it proves the scale, you know? It doesn't matter if the problem is macro or micro.
Exactly. The cognitive exoskeleton gives one person the operational bandwidth of an entire corporate staff.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry has never been lower.
Okay, but let me push back a little here. Leveraging AI to track down cheap flax seeds or map demographics is a great tactical advantage.
Sure.
But technology has limits. If you're building a philosophy on adaptability, what happens when you lose your physical ability to adapt?
Ah, right.
Like a chatbot cannot save you when your business collapses overnight and your actual health fails. How does Osman's philosophy hold up against genuine tragedy?
Well, navigating true tragedy requires moving away from digital tools and relying on an internal framework. Osman actually bases his worldview on Isaac Newton's third law of motion.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Right. Osman treats this physics law as a mathematical equation for human circumstances. He says if a massive negative force hits your life, an equal and opposite positive advantage is created in that exact moment.
The magnitude of the disaster dictates the magnitude of the advantage.
Exactly. But the catch is, you have to actively calculate the new variables to uncover it.
I have to admit, I struggle with that concept. It borders on toxic positivity for me.
How so?
Like, oh, you lost your life savings and got a terrible illness. Look on the bright side. That kind of platitude usually falls apart when real suffering starts.
And it would absolutely be a platitude if it were just about staying cheerful. But Osman went through the ultimate stress test of this during the COVID-19 lockdown.
Right, because it wasn't just the economy pausing for him.
No, every single one of his business ventures was forcibly shut down. His income evaporated instantly. And on top of that, he contracted a severe illness.
And then the most terrifying variable, he began to rapidly lose his eyesight.
Yeah, your livelihood is gone, your health is failing, and the visual world is literally fading away.
The sheer panic most of us would feel in that scenario is just hard to fathom.
But he didn't rely on blind optimism. He ran the mathematical equation. He looked at the new variables.
Okay, so what were they?
Variable A, the loss of his businesses, meant a massive influx of free time. Variable B, the loss of his eyesight, meant a forced reduction in visual stimuli and screen time.
So he calculated what those extreme variables allowed him to do that was physically impossible when he was healthy working 60 hours a week.
Exactly.
What did the math tell him to do?
Well, it allowed him to test a historical rumor. He had read that Albert Einstein supposedly slept 14 to 16 hours a day.
No way.
Yeah. So Osman used his extreme variables to conduct a radical lifestyle experiment on himself.
That mental pivot is just extraordinary. My world is collapsing, I'm going blind, so I am going to run an experiment based on a theoretical physicist's sleep habits.
I know, it's wild. He couldn't quite hit 16 hours, but he slept 13 to 14 hours a day for months.
Wow. And he really enjoyed the rest.
He did. And he used his waking hours, which were stripped of visual distractions, to profoundly deepen his yoga and energy practices.
Well, he listened to a bunch of audiobooks, right?
Yeah, amazing fiction books he never had the bandwidth to explore before. When he looks back at the lockdown, with the illness and the vision loss, he doesn't remember it as a tragedy.
He genuinely remembers it as an enjoyable period of growth.
Exactly. It fundamentally shifts how we understand resilience.
It really does. It isn't about gritting your teeth and enduring the pain. It's about ruthlessly exploiting the new condition.
Yes, exploiting the advantage.
So what does this all mean for us? Because if I lose my income and my eyesight tomorrow, my brain is going to be screaming in panic.
Well, of course.
It takes immense discipline to not spiral. How does a person physically get their brain to run that kind of calm calculation in a crisis?
Well, you have to understand that panic consumes cognitive bandwidth. Think of your brain like a computer's RAM. It's random access memory.
Okay, I'm with you.
If your processing power is maxed out on fear, anxiety, and worst-case scenarios, your brain physically does not have the available bandwidth to run a search algorithm for solutions.
So cultivating this mindset is less about achieving some mystical inner peace and more about literally freeing up processing power in your head.
Exactly. Osman cites that there are over 50,000 scientific reports validating the positive influence of mindfulness. Yoga and meditation are the foundational tools to clear the RAM.
They create the unpanicked state of mind necessary to actually spot that equal and opposite advantage.
Yes.
But how does that actually work in practice?
Right.
If I meditate for 20 minutes, I don't just magically get a fully fleshed out business plan falling from the ceiling.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about programming the subconscious mind. When you meditate, you aren't trying to force a tactical solution.
You're just holding the intention, right?
Right. You hold the question, what is the hidden advantage in this disaster? Inside a calm space, you give your subconscious a clear directive.
So it acts like a background radar, scanning your environment and conversations for clues.
Exactly. It works on the problem behind the scenes until the pieces click. You're installing a new operating system that runs in the background.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this approach actually has deep roots in a story from Osman's past. Before he was an entrepreneur, he worked as a trainee attorney and article clerk.
Right.
And his principal attorney made him do something highly unusual. He required young Osman to regularly attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings.
Wait, as an educational exercise? Like to understand clients struggling with alcohol?
Yeah, to build deep empathy for clients. But in those meetings, Osman absorbed this ultimate masterclass in adaptability. He learned the core tenet of survival through the Serenity Prayer.
Oh, right. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That simple prayer is the blueprint for the cognitive exoskeleton and the Newton's third law equation.
Because there are massive macro forces you literally cannot change. AI is here, the job market is shifting, bodies fail.
Exactly. If you spend your limited cognitive RAM fighting the unchangeable, you exhaust your resources. True adaptability is having the wisdom to accept the macro environment immediately.
And then having the aggressive courage to change what you actually control: your skills, your tools, and your perspective.
Which brings us to the most practical piece of advice Osman offers. You do not have to overhaul your entire existence by tomorrow morning.
Right. You don't need to quit your job today, buy an AI subscription, and suddenly meditate for 2 hours while sleeping 14 hours a day.
No, he explicitly warns against going cold turkey. You transition gently. Adapt the mindfulness tools to fit your specific lifestyle.
You might start with just 10 minutes a day to clear your mental RAM.
Or spend an hour on Sunday using AI to map out how your corporate skills could translate to an independent contract. You test the waters.
Because the end goal here isn't to become a hardened survivalist. The goal is to live passionately. The world is dynamic, and holding on to a broken traditional system out of fear is draining.
It really is.
But if you unbundle your skills, strap on that cognitive exoskeleton, and condition your mind to look for the advantage, you stop being a victim. You become the architect of your own reality.
This raises an important question, though. Think about the biggest, most frustrating challenge you are facing in your life right now.
The thing that's straining your RAM.
Exactly. If Newton's third law applies universally, if every negative force mathematically creates an equal and opposite positive advantage, what is the hidden advantage in your current struggle, just waiting for you to find it?
That is an incredible question to chew on as you go about your day. Remember, just because the foundation of the old system is shaking doesn't mean you have to go down with the building.
Yeah.
You have the leverage and the tools to build something entirely new. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep adapting, and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.